Sam, tell us what your feelings of watching last night Blackburn take on Derby, and also probably Preston, Sheffield United, which I wasn't surprised that Sheffield got that result. They've had huge change this summer.
Yeah, Cass, I think they've gone. I know they've been relegated, but not a lot of people have been talking about Sheffield United, and they've made some really interesting signings,
Mm.
albeit, guys from the lower level and maybe players that haven't been at championship clubs with the huge expectation that Sheffield United are going to have. But I think Chris Wilder slowly and surely is putting a really competitive squad together. You would have looked at Burnley, I think, in terms of the depth and the quality of that squad. But I think Sheffield United have caught up in the last few days, and no surprise really that they started like that last night. I think it could be a difficult season for Ryan Lowe and Preston. I know we're talking in the aftermath of one game, but I think they lost their last 5 games back end of last season. So not the perfect way for them to start. And Blackburn, I think a lot of people's tips to struggle as well, but John Eustace is a friend of mine. I think he showed last season at
Yeah.
Birmingham and subsequently at Blackburn. The structure of the team will be strong. And if last night's anything to go by, if he can marry it with some flair going forward, a couple of debutants scored last night, then keep hold of Sammy Schmodics, then they shouldn't have too much to worry about. But a great start, and obviously like the majority the other two relegated sides, it's going to be a struggle for Derby, Oxford, Portsmouth, but we know that, and they take one position outside the relegation zone, I'm sure.
Sam, I'm going to be saying Sam a lot because Sammy Smodics and keeping him is pivotal to Blackburn. But are they going to be able to get that over the line and keep him at the club? Because there's clubs sniffing around him, and he had a great season last year.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, the previous year, if you think back, Chuba Akpom did something similar at Middlesbrough. You would never have tipped either of those guys to be at the top of the scoring chart. So it came from nowhere a little bit. He showed great potential at Peterborough United, Sammy Schmodics, and it didn't go to plan at Bristol City, and he just caught fire last year. He was incredible, and not playing as a centre forward, Cass, which you'll know, like he played up down the middle on occasions, but he played as a 10. He plays wide on the left-hand side, so those numbers were astonishing. They've moved in the market, and they brought in experience as well. I think 3 forward players who can play an array of positions on the front line. Vyman being the one who scored last night. Aherne scored a lovely goal as well. So they've moved, I think, to strengthen in that area. Should it happen, and I suppose it's just going to be whether they can turn down the type of money that possibly those newly promoted sides like your Ipswich can possibly pay. So it's going to be tough, but great for him and for the fans to get that moment last night. Him coming on gets a nice applause and gets himself a goal, which we shouldn't be surprised about.
Sam, it's early days to be talking about promotion, but we can't help but focus on it already. And by the way, Mansfield in League One beat Barnsley 2-1 last night. Brilliant result for Nigel Clough. What do you see happening for them this season?
Well, they got great strength in depth. Mansfield, he's obviously very experienced. Nigel Clough, a lot of experienced players in the side. I felt going into last night's game, Lee Gregory could be a brilliant bit of business in the division. Starts with a goal, up against Barnsley last night, who have had a change in the dugout. Darryl Clark's gone in there. They've chopped and changed a little bit the last few years, Barnsley, but been able to remain relatively successful with playoff campaigns. So I think they'll be strong again. But I think Mansfield, absolutely, having seen them in the flesh a few times back end of last season, will have enough to consolidate, which might be a little bit in contrast to the teams that have been promoted to the Championship that we just spoke of.
Sam, I'm going to ask you this question because Mark Robins has always been to me one of them. He's gone under the radar, but lots of people in the game know about him and how brilliantly he's done. Nigel Clough, obviously the son of Brian, has done unbelievable as a manager. I just feel like you give him a job, he can make it work. He's shown incredible intelligence about managing and really difficult circumstances at clubs like, obviously Boston and Mansfield now. Tell us your feelings on Nigel Clough, because I just think he's done so well.
Yeah, I was at one of their last games, home games of last season. I spoke to him briefly before the game. Yeah, I think there's a bit of old school about the setup there. I think in terms of probably the motivation that he brings to the players. He loves to have flexible players that are versatile, that can play different positions. He loves experience, and I think that keeps the opponents guessing. He's got a lad called Jordan Bowery who was at Aston Villa once upon a time, a centre forward who plays right back for him. He's got Lucas Akins, who he had at Burton, and he's subsequently taken to Mansfield, who is a forward player but plays at wing back. So I think he likes to have those guys that have been there and done it, the experience. But I think he puts together really clever squads. And you think that Mansfield have struggled for so long under the ownership of the Radfords, and thrown money at it as well, by the way. And so many managers have gone in there. It's a bit like Stoke maybe in the Championship, and failed over a period of time. And Nigel Clough's been able to go in there, have a little bit more longevity and have success and get them promoted. So I think that tells you, like Mark Robins, Cass, there's no substitute for experience, and really knows how to put a team together. And I'll be very surprised if Mansfield are struggling, because they've got great quality there.
Okay, Sam Parkin, thank you very much for coming on bright and early this morning. Make sure you get a nap when the kids get theirs, okay?
No problem.
Cheers, Sam. Go to bed.
Speak to you soon, Sam. I'm sure we'll be hearing lots from him.
He's really good, Sam.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Well, you would see that when he's on the phone, wouldn't you?
Honestly, you really listen to Sam a lot, and just think, cool, he really knows his football clubs inside out.
You could listen to people like that who know so much about all of those leagues for days.
Well, it's a challenge, because I always say to people, like, the Premier League in itself is a challenge. Managing one league, then you've got Champions League football, and you've got international football. And then you go League One, League Two, Championship. There's a lot to study, and and not all of it works, but you've got a great idea, and also knowing the inside of a club, the contacts you have, and how the dynamics of how, like he explained, how they work as managers.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.